York, big city of dreams. New York, big city of dreams. NYC.
Whoops. What's going on? This is Jay Ellis from the Knick Of Time Show. Here to give you that Knicks talk just in the nick of time. And it's time to talk about a Knicks win in the clutch. What? The Knicks withstand the heat in the winter and beat them 106-104. RJ Barrett, the Bodman, comes in with 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. The newly named All-Star in Julius Randle gives you 23 points and 10 rebounds. Grimes chips in with 17 points, gives you a clutch 3 as well, and 3 assists. The Knicks bench comes in with 28 points on the night, only outscored by 1 point from the Heat bench, and the Knicks win the rebound battle 57-41. Shout out to these New York Knicks who took it home. No Jalen Brunson today. We did not have him. No Mitchell Robinson today. We did not have him. IQ did an admirable job running the first unit, and the Knicks took care of business. And we're going to talk about it all, the good, the bad, a little bit of ugly, but there's not a lot of ugly to talk about today. So you know what? We're going to talk about it all. Before I talk about it all, first and foremost, hit that like and subscribe button. And also shout out to Fubu TV. If you want MSG for free for 7 days, go to FubuTV.com/KOT. You'll get the Knicks for free for 7 days. And if you decide to buy the subscription, you help us out. You'll get free cable, and you can cut that subscription wherever you want to. So shout out to Fubu TV. Okay. Now let me introduce you to my guys. I know you see some new faces today. All right. First and foremost, it is the man, the myth, the legend, the guy with the stats and the facts.
Ryan G's in the building. A victory over the Heat is always a good night.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Always. We gotta always beat the Heat. Pat Riley and them, we don't like that. We don't like them. All right. Always a good day when we beat the Heat. Also, my man, the Latin assassin, Mr. ESPN contributor, posting and toasting contributor, Deadspin contributor, SNY contributor, my man, Lee Escobedo. Nah. Bruh. Not today.
Man, I'm thrilled about a win. I'm never going to get off my fire tips bandwagon, but I must say I'm really positive about this win for some reason. I've been like indecisive about tanking and losing. Like, what do these midseason wins mean? But man, I saw the MSG commercial again with that train conductor, and I thought about him, man. I was like, that guy wants the Knicks to win, man. It pulled at my heartstring. Every time I see that commercial, I'm like, I can't be negative, man, because I'm rooting for that guy to win in life. I want him to win. There's something about him that is like, he's so adorable, man. So, hey, Knicks won. Let's go.
So you're telling me all I have to do to convert toxic Knicks Twitter is show them a commercial of the Knicks train conductor, and they'll
just him. Some of them are kind of corny. There's something about that guy. Look in his eyes, that blue collar hero, man. I'm like all about it. Reminds me of my dad, man.
Oh,
love
man.
That guy.
Well, shout out to Lee and shout out to the train conductor. Maybe we'll have him on the show next. All right. Now introducing our special guest. All right, sports anchor from NY Sports, NY Post Sports, and SNY TV. Shout out to my guy, Dexter Henry. First time on the program. He's had Lee on like 600 times already, and we had to throw him the lob and bring him back on the KOT show. Shout out to you.
Yo, thanks for having me, guys. I caught the lob, did not turn the ball over like RJ Barrett did a couple times tonight, but we here to get it done. So thank you guys for having me. Love what y'all do. Blessed to be here, talk some Knicks hoops.
Absolutely. Let's start with that. Let's start with the Bodman and RJ Barrett, because he was catching some heat to start the season. And I know some people were kind of low on him, but I just want to read out some stats real quick before we get into RJ Barrett. Since that Dallas game where we've been embarrassed, RJ Barrett has averaged 21 points, 2.5 assists, shot 45% from the field and 39% from three. So when people talk about him struggling, I know the overall numbers don't look good, but I can see him slowly getting better offensively, finishing better, and shooting better. And even though the passing is still something to be desired, you already see it, 2.5 assists. I do feel like there is hope for the young man in RJ Barrett to improve. And I knew you would have a bounce back game today, and he certainly showed it today. So I'm going to start off with our new guest, and I want to get your thoughts on RJ Barrett's bounce back game today.
Yo, so Jay Ellis, like you, I thought that RJ would bounce back today, right? But then I think what's interesting about this game is in the opening quarter, second quarter, first half, you should say, he didn't really shoot the ball that well from outside, right? At one point, he was 0-4, 0-5 from three. What I did like about him today, the thing that really impressed me with RJ was his ability to attack the rim in the second half, which is something I know a lot of Knicks fans have been screaming for him to do more. He showed you what he can do when he can attack the ball. The downside late in the game for a lot of Knicks fans was the fact that he turned the ball over a bunch. And that was really frustrating to see with him, right? The fact that he just turned the ball over so much, and you want to see him take care of the ball better and make better decisions. But in terms of attacking the rim, how he played, getting the 30 points to 8 boards, it was really good to see from RJ tonight. Obviously, those turnovers of 5 you see right there on the screen, that's not what you like to see, especially the two that came late, or the one that almost became a turnover. But I think the way he attacked the rim, that's what you want to see from him. If the shot's not falling, do what you did tonight. Attack the rim, put pressure on the defense, especially against a team like Miami that we know, kind of like the Knicks, can struggle a bit offensively. But I liked what I saw to RJ tonight. Away from the bounce back, this is what you want to see from a player, guys. If you get mad, you got benched in the fourth quarter against the Lakers, get mad, show the coaching staff and the team that you're going to respond in a big-time way. And so I think this is positive for RJ Barrett. I'm not as down on him, guys, as some other people have been. We still got to remember he's only 22 years old. Has he had the best year? No, it's been a disappointing season. I've actually been more disappointed with him on defense this season than I have in the offense. That's been more of the disappointment for me when you watch RJ Barrett. But, I think he has to understand, hopefully this was a wake-up call for him. Sometimes it's something that can spark a team, spark a guy. Maybe this is it for him, but we will see. But I think if you're a Knicks fan or an RJ Barrett fan, this is an encouraging sign in how we attack the rim in the second half of this game.
Absolutely. I also feel like defensively, he wanted to set a tone early. I really didn't see him dying on a lot of screens today and getting beat off the dribble today. I felt like defensively, the coaching staff must have pulled him to the side and said, step it up, because I saw a difference on both ends of the floor today. What about you, Lee? What did you think about the RJ game today, or your thoughts on the game in general?
If there was any game I could pick for RJ Barrett to play after being benched last game, it's the Heat, because he's constantly being comped to Jimmy Butler, skill set wise, and he's always been compared contract and growth wise to Tyler Hero. So I think it provided a really good outlet for him to get motivation. Whether he needed it or not, he should have already had some by being benched in the fourth quarter and overtime. But I thought he bounced back well. Even though he missed all 5 of his 3-point attempts, he still shot over 50% from the field. The turnovers, man, I feel like Dexter said, he's 22 years old. That I'm not going to be so concerned at. It's more consistency on defense. Since coming back from his injury, the finger laceration on January 12th, he's posted a net defensive rating of 125.8, which is atrocious. That's at bottom of the barrel defense. Definitely the worst of any of the starters, and has really knocked him out of any of the top 5 or 6 5-man rotation combinations defensively. On the offensive side of the ball, he's been pretty consistent. Once I let go of the notion that he's going to be an all-star or a consistent 26, 27 point per game, and what we're seeing right now is what he's going to be, my expectations have dropped, and I'm really just happy any game where he's able to chip in over 20 points per game. So I think dropping my expectations have gone a long way in me appreciating his all-around abilities and more of him as a player on this team.
Ryan G, are you out on RJ being an all-star caliber player at this point? I just want to ask you that. And you can also give your thoughts on RJ's game or any thoughts you had on the game in general.
Yeah, I'm still holding out a bit of hope that he can turn into that all-star caliber player. Because like Dexter said, he's only 22 years old. He still has room to grow. But I mean, based on the evidence we've seen so far, and this being his 4th season, it doesn't look like it's likely. But overall, with RJ Barrett tonight, the one thing about RJ Barrett is, throughout his career, he's shown that when he faces a bit of adversity, usually that next game or so, he to the occasion. And lately, with the way with his play, especially on the defense as of late, there's been preferring quickly to shut out games more so than Barrett. And Barrett's done, during most fourth quarters, towards the end of the game. So I think Barrett, especially that Lakers game, I think he took it to heart and he came out strong tonight. And what I liked about RJ Barrett was the fact that he saw his matchup because, in the third quarter, I believe, he said that Tyler Hero was on him. And he knows that Tyler Hero's barbecue chicken all day. Can't play. So what did he do? He attacked Tyler Hero. I think he scored like 11 points. I think 11 straight points in the third quarter, something along those lines. And he really put a stamp of the game. And also he was a part of that second unit in the fourth quarter that increased the lead as well. So, RJ Barrett played really good tonight. Of course, the turnovers were not great on his behalf. But, besides that, RJ Barrett did have a good bounce back game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you talked about the second unit because that's something else I actually want to tackle, the second unit. Usually when you see RJ Barrett play, it's a tale of two RJs. I feel like the second unit usually gets in that second quarter and that fourth quarter, and they never really play both good quarters. Sometimes it's usually one or the other. Today they had a slow second quarter, but they really turned it on when we really needed it at the end of the third into the fourth quarter. We were outscored by the bench. The Heat bench 20-5 at halftime, and you turn around and you're looking and look at that. The bench only scored one less point than the Heat bench. So I want to get your thoughts on the bench performance today, Dexter.
The bench has been a concern for the Knicks, right? No doubt. It's where are they going to get points beside quickly? I thought today you got some good minutes from Hartenstein, who I've been down on and probably wanted to get him out to JFK as soon as possible. But he's been good lately. I got to give him credit. Like since that Cleveland game, he's been really good in terms of some of his defense, actually, which I can't believe I'm saying.
Yeah. And
also in getting some rebounds. Now he missed some chippies tonight again too, which I think Knicks fans have been seeing. But I think you got solid minutes from him. IQ, I was a little concerned about the bench in this game because once IQ was coming to be a starter with Brunson out, I thought that was a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
But you like how the bench stepped up. You got some good minutes from Obi. You got some good minutes from McBride tonight. Actually, was able to hit, had that one big three in the fourth quarter. That was huge from him. I think that's big for them anytime they can get that. However, the fact that you just said, Jay, that it was 20-5 at half and they were able to only lose in bench points by 1 in this game is huge. It's a huge factor in them winning this game. However, this is not sustainable against good teams, right? Like this is something that needs to be concerned with this team. It shows you why they need to upgrade their bench scoring. And I'm sure we'll get into that later with the trade deadline. But I think there's something that they need more oomph off this bench. This team still lacks shooting. Lee and I talked about that when he was on with me, New York Post Sports the other day. They need shooting badly on this team. And it's something that I think hurts the Knicks in terms of closing games, right? We can get to the turnovers and all that stuff. But when they have leads, because other teams can shoot the three ball better than them or have snipers, they have the ability to come back. It's the reason Knicks can't come back in games. I think the reason they struggle sometimes to close games is the lack of shooting. Also, I can get into, which I know Lee agrees with me on this. Also, it is the lack of offensive creativity that we see from the head coach in terms of the sets that are being run, which I think is a bit antiquated. I was texting with some friends about that the other day and also was talking with Lee about it. And I think that has to be better. But in terms of the bench, I think you should be encouraged by what you saw tonight, but cautious, especially when quickly in play off of it, but still cautiously optimistic because I think the Knicks fans that are being level-headed about this know that this team still needs more off the bench in terms of a shooter or somebody that can score off the bounce.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's still a young bench. The thing for me is we've really been missing something from Hartenstein for a long time. That's one area, and we've always been missing the three-point shooting. Miles McBride has been up and down when it comes to three-point shooting. Today he was up and it was sorely needed. He's still a young guy. So I would like I said this before, I understand the need for 3-point shooting, but I also feel like, I'm okay with the young guys getting their lumps. I'm not super concerned with I want to make the playoffs, but I'm not super concerned with getting a 3-point shooting veteran. You know what I mean? I'm more into grooming our young guys, unless what we bring here is a young veteran or something that can grow with the team. So I'm cool with this and building the assets and giving them time at this moment. But I'm glad they were able to step it up today, especially Hartenstein, because I'm starting to feel like maybe Hartenstein is getting his rhythm, and maybe that can be real, because this is more what the front office and even some Knicks fans were crazy enough to think he was going to challenge Mitch for the starting spot. Yeah, I still don't forget y'all. All right. But he's starting to step it up. So hopefully when Mitch comes back, he can still find some comfort, and maybe at least that part of the bench rotation problems could be solved, even though more of the 3-point conversation still might have to kind of look at that down the road and kind of fix that. Ryan G, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, the bench played good tonight. Like I said, in the fourth quarter, they were able to increase the lead. Back in the second quarter, like I think one of the Knicks Achilles heel this season has been playing against zone defenses.
Yes.
Just the fact that, like Dexter pointed out, there's not much creativity to the offense. So when teams play zone, Knicks are either selling for threes or they run isolation in zone, and isolation in zone is never a great idea. You're going to fail every time against the zone defense. So what I did like about the second unit coming into coming late in the third and in the fourth quarter is the fact that they starting to move the ball around.
Great point.
And that's what definitely helped them to break that zone defense that the Heat was playing. And that's what I definitely liked about their play today. And, McBride's 2 3-pointers were definitely major. Anything that McBride gives us is a huge plus on offense. And Hartenstein had good minutes as well, Obi. So, overall, the bench definitely performed well. I agree with Dex, and I've been saying it for like the past few episodes. Like, Knicks definitely need bench help. Like, the Knicks carry on with the bench the way it is. So I'm hoping that before the trade deadline, they can bring in somebody that will help strengthen the bench. But the bench did play good tonight.
They did. Lee?
When I hold that fire Tibbs sign, it's more than just a prank. It's something that I really am speaking from the chest on that. And the reason is because we do have bench help. His name is Obi Toppin, and Tibbs refuses to play him over 20 minutes a game. Again, disrespecting my man with 14 minutes tonight, even though he shot 50% from the field, had a really nice, clean turnaround mid-range and a really clutch corner 3 as well to get back into the game in the early in the fourth. I'm just like, this man is completely disrespected night after night. He's given Fournier hasn't played in I don't know how many games. Guy comes in and plays 18 minutes, 4 more than Obi, 1 for 7 from the field. But at what point is Thibodeau going to realize that he has the options on his bench to use to give us a spark, especially when Julius Randle goes on his really terrible stretches where there's a lack of defensive IQ and bad turnovers? Obi should be getting more minutes with a 20-minute minimum. And also, it's Jericho Sims right now, really, he's just a placeholder. He's not really our starting center. The guy right now played 19 minutes, Ihart 29. I would argue that Ihart has outplayed Sims in the last couple of games, but I think the minutes should still be given to Sims. Sims should still have a shot. He shouldn't just be playing the majority of the first quarter and then sitting on a bench for the rest of the game. We need to be given these in-game opportunities to improve his play against other starting caliber centers so that he can learn, add wrinkles to his offensive game, rebound. It's the best rebounders in the NBA, and actually play defense against guys that matter, not into the bench games, into bench guys in garbage minutes. So it's been really frustrating watching the way Tibbs has mishandled Obi Toppin and just appreciating his value as an asset and a human being. And I'm really fed up with it.
I want to push back on that today, actually. But before I push back, I want to see if you guys want to respond.
I will say this to Lee's point on that. I know this is contentious among Knicks fans. Knicks fans are always asking me this. I'm always talking about it. The Obi minutes. Do I think Tibbs should give Obi more minutes? Yes, I do. I think you should find ways. I would also like to see him. This is probably supporting Lee's point. He probably could hold up the fire Tibbs sign again, right? But I think that the thing with Tibbs that I feel is legitimately frustrating to fans is, okay, look at the matchup sometimes.
Yes.
Even tonight against Miami, this is a time where you could go a little bit smaller. You can play some Obi at the 5. I know Tibbs values rim protection. I also like rim protection, but you can play a little bit of that. Give him 2 or 3 minute spurts in each half here. And that's maybe where you get Obi's minutes closer to 20 or over 20 by doing that. Even that extra 6 minutes will just put you at 20. I think the unwillingness to diversify things within just lineups against certain teams and certain matchups, I think is a little bit stubborn there. And listen, Toppin, when he first came back from the injury, you could tell he didn't have his legs. You start trying to get it back under him. Now he seems to. You can see how he's running the floor. His legs look better on his shot. And he's a spark. Look, him and Quickly, they're the guys that can really spark the offense off the bench that you can trust. And they have to lean in that to more, because where I think is a fair criticism, guys, is, look, you're still playing too many minutes to the starters. You see, Barrett 41 minutes today. Quickly starting, he had 37. Grimes also plays 37, and Julius played 34. You talked about, I think Lee makes a good point about, I want to see more minutes for Sims too. I'm a Sims fan. I like Sims. And in fact, I wouldn't mind if we saw Sims get the backup minutes when Robinson came back. It wouldn't bother me at all. But I think, you gotta diversify the minutes more and not burn these players out before we get down the stretch. Fair point too, Lee, about Fournier coming in, which I'm fine with. I'm not necessarily mad at that because he did not play terribly in any kind of way. But you wonder, are those more minutes that Obi could have had? I know you're down a guard, so I understand that too. But you wonder if there's more minutes that could have been had for Obi there. I think it's fair. It's fair to question that.
Yeah. In general, it's fair to question Obi's minutes here and Tom's willingness not to go small. Today you have Hartenstein going, and Obi was out there for a stretch in the fourth quarter until the Heat started to make a comeback. And when he started to make a comeback, that's when he took him out and went back to Randall with like 5 minutes left. So I kind of get it a little bit today. But I also do agree that in general, Obi needs more time, and that we need to experiment with the smaller lineup to get him that time. And Tom Thibodeau just hasn't been willing to do it, which is why I feel like it's inevitable that he's eventually has to be moved, because he's just not going to be the true Obi Toppin here, even as much as I love that player. But it is what it is with Obi at this point. It sucks to say, but that's just the truth. Julius Randle is an all-star. Julius Randle being all-star Julius Randle is going to be even tougher. Last year, I was all about Obi getting all Randle's minutes. This year, it's tough to argue that. It's really tough to argue that. So it's up to the coach to really expound his mind. And we already know what it is with Tibbs. He's very narrow-minded, and this is my way or the highway, and we are on his highway right now. It just is what it is. But I still like the bench, man. The bench did a really good job today. And usually, salute to the chat. Hold on, let me salute to the chat real quick. All right, shout out to the chat. I shut down the phones because it was acting weird. It was a little echoing. That's why I shut down the phones. But usually I would say call in so we can talk Knicks. But shout out to you guys in the chat. If you like the show so far, hit the like and subscribe button. And please give my man Dexter some love. We had a really good conversation behind the scenes. Really cool dude. So shout out to you guys, and shout out to Dexter for being here. Oh, shout out to Into the Knicks verse. That's my guy, my guy George. Shout out to this guy. Great channel over there as well.
George.
Yeah. Shout out to King John Alexander, Mike Uno, my real fake cousin Winston Ellis. Everybody else is rocking with this show. Love you guys' support. Some more Tibbs praise, Lee. I'm gonna bust your head open with some Tibbs praise today. All right, so don't implode on me on screen. All right. Is it me, or did the fourth quarter look a little bit different offensively than we're used to seeing? We've struggled in the clutch for most of the season. I even have numbers. We're ranked 13th offensively in first quarter, second offensively in the second quarter. But when it comes to the fourth quarter, we are ranked 24th. And so we have not performed well in the fourth quarter. But today, without Brunson, even though there was some mistakes from some weird in-round lineups that kind of look like some Mighty Ducks type of I formation thing. I didn't know what Tibbs was thinking there. But besides that, I felt like there was a lot of ball movement in the fourth quarter that I wasn't used to seeing. Was that just me? What did you guys think of the fourth quarter offense? I'll start with you, Dexter, since you the guest.
So it's interesting you bring that up, JL, because I think that what can happen sometimes, and what's annoyed me watching the Knicks this year, particularly in late game situations, is there seems to be a tendency to just play isolation ball with just Randall and Brunson. And I want to be clear, so Knicks fans watching, listening, be very clear. I am not saying that we do not need Jalen Brunson. That obviously would be ridiculous. But what I will say is that I think that because Jalen Brunson has been such a good facilitator, because you can trust him so much down the stretch, and I think most logical Knicks fans are going to say, yeah, trust the ball in his hands down the stretch. When you watch the Knicks, and some of this is Tibbs, and some of this could be also on the team, I think there's been a tendency to be like, okay, yeah, he's got the ball, so we're just going to stand back and let him do his thing. And then you become reliant on that. You understand what I'm saying? This is what continuously happens. You become reliant on it. And I think that's how bad habits form, and you're moving the ball. Now, that comes back to coaching, which is going to make Lee happy, right? It comes back to coaching in the fact that the coach has to stop them and say, hey, we got to move the ball. This is how we have to play in the fourth quarter. We can't just go to ISO ball. Today, to your point, JL, they didn't, because Brunson's not there, they couldn't just sit back and be like, we're going to let him do it. So IQ is going to move the ball a little bit more because that's the role he's kind of used to in coming off the bench. And that's what you're going to see. The point being is they could take something from certain things that we saw today in the fourth quarter from the Knicks in terms of ball movement and how it didn't get as stagnant. Now, they need to clean up on the turnovers because that's what almost made them lose this game. It's the turnovers. They need to clean up on that. But I think, it did look a little different, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Brunson wasn't there. But I think it's more of the other players being reliant on Brunson so much in the caretaking, the ability for him to handle things, instead of saying that, okay, we can move the ball more. Again, I know I'm throwing Lee a lob here. I get it. I'm not saying 5 Tibbs. I'm not pulling out the 5 Tibbs sign. I'm not going that far. But that does come down to coaching, and I do think that's something that has to be pushed down the stretch. I actually wonder for Brunson, who was sick, if he's watching it, he was watching this game, I'm sure, if he's well, and we wish him well to get better. But Brunson, who's sick, is watching that and saying, all right, when he's back, hey guys, this is how we got to move the ball in the fourth quarter, right? And I think a lot of it just comes down to not just really more so Brunson, it's really more Julius, I will say this too, because he's the one who has a tendency to really hold the ball a lot and not necessarily make the best decisions. And we know what Brunson has done for Julius this year. The reason Julius is an all-star, and I said this in a video I recorded a little earlier, is because of what Brunson has done, his ability to break down the defenses and make the game better where he doesn't have to have the ball in his hand so much. The problem is for Knicks fans, when you're watching these games, it seems like it's just Brunson and or Randall that has the ball in his hands. One other thing I'll add, guys, sorry I'm long-winded on this.
Go ahead.
I think another good thing that we saw was when RJ got the ball on possessions in the fourth quarter, he made very quick, decisive decisions, which were to go to the rack. That also helps as well, too. RJ, I believe, had 4 assists tonight. He also did a pretty good job early on in the game of looking for other people when the shot wasn't fall. But I thought late in the game, his decisions were very decisive. It wasn't holding the ball. Wait, he got it. He was going to go. 1-2, boom, let's go. And I think that's more of the other thing. Another person I'm going to give shout out to in the offense in the fourth quarter I thought was really good, that played in the flow of the offense, was Quentin Grimes. I thought he played really well, made some good decisions playing. And Grimes is becoming an underrated passer. Y'all saw that pass he had when Hartenstein was cutting, and he hit him off for the jam. So when the Knicks move the ball, they can be dangerous. They have the talent to be a much better offensive team than what we have seen. The problem is their sets still look like it's 2005, and they do a lot of isolation ball, and that's got to stop.
Go ahead. I know Lee might want to go. Ryan, you haven't talked in a while. Rock, paper, scissors. Go ahead.
All right, I guess I'll just jump in. The fourth quarter definitely looked different. They definitely moved the ball around more. And I think that's what contributed to their win because, when you're in isolation against teams that play good defense, that's never a good solution. That's not how you're going to break them down. You're only going to break them down by ball movement. And of course, Brunson being there probably did help because, Brunson does like to hold the ball more and isolate. And I've talked about this on previous, episodes as well. Like sometimes when you have a player who isolates often, sometimes it kind of discourages like the other players to even move on offense because they're not really expecting the ball back because they're just expecting this guy to just take the ball and then take his defender one-on-one and get his own shot. So I would like it, if Brunson comes back, to try to convince the guy to, get a bit more, movement off the ball because I do believe Brunson is a good enough passer and he has good enough court vision to where if guys do cut off the ball, he will find them for easy baskets. But yeah, I mean, I do hope that the Knicks can continue this, move the ball around more, get more guys involved, try to get easier shots and rather than just going to Brunson and Randall route and just doing isolation all the time and just hope and pray that either they make the shot or if they get double teamed, that they make the right pass.
Couldn't agree more.
Go ahead, Lee.
I'm ready to catch that lob. So I think it's 50-50. On the net side, this team, by having, Elfrid Payton and Kemba Walker employed at the point for the last 2 years, they've gotten used to facilitating outside the point guard position, getting the offense going, running it through Randall or running it through RJ. So at this point, I think they can actually sustain losing Brunson a little bit better than losing Randall for a game. You have guys like RJ Barrett, 4 assists, IQ, 4 assists, Grimes, 3, Randall, 6. Even Evan Fournier finally been able to unlock his playmaking. I hope we're able to do that with Hartenstein sometime soon as well. But we have a lot of guys who are able to mix it up and are used to not playing without a point guard run the offense that have the ability to facilitate on their own. So that helped the Knicks. Brunson sitting and Ryan had a great point. Nobody has a higher usage rate and more on-ball rate than Brunson on this team. He just dribbles the air out of the ball and it usually turns into a bucket, but not a bucket for anyone else but himself. On the opposite end, with the Miami Heat, their point of attack was really awful tonight, especially when the ball was in the hands of Jimmy Butler, who finished with only 10 points, and Kyle Lowry, who had 0 points,
He's a shell
0
of himself.
assists, and 0 rebounds in the first half. I mean, IQ and Deuce McBride really shut him down in the first half, not even being able to get a shot off. It was masterful defense by IQ in the first half. I wanted that man his flowers. He's been unbelievable off the bench and in the starting role. But I think really limiting the Heat's point of attack, forced turnovers, and cause them to get more transition opportunities. And then to Dexter's point, that's when guys like RJ had to make the decision to either rim read and give a good pass or spray it out or get an easy step to the basket. He had a couple of really nice changing directions, driving to the lane and getting a really nice hoop around the basket. I was impressed by RJ's ability driving tonight, but I think playing off of Miami Heat's awful offense, who gets almost as stagnant as New York, since Kyle Lowry's way past his prime, they have a difficult time initiating their own offense too. They don't have a whole lot of one-on-one guys. Tyler Hero was really the only guy who was able to facilitate for others besides himself and had the best game, probably him and Bam on the team.
Yeah. I really like when RJ Barrett just goes downhill in general. The finishing has always been a point of contention for him. Like I said, this is the best he's been finishing at the rim all year. I haven't looked at the stats in a while, but I think he's at like 58% right now, which isn't super high, but it's highest in his career. And if he keeps trending his direction, I think it'll end up being his strength by the end of the year. And maybe the optics on RJ Barrett as a whole will change for Knicks Nation and the NBA. Hopefully, I still believe in you, RJ, even though people was kind of counting you out. All right, I think you can pull it out. The Bodman did it today. Shout out to you, RJ Barrett, shooting you the gunshots today. All right. Let's talk about some other stuff too. Man, yesterday was a doozy. Yesterday, Ian is dropping some bombs over here in these streets on Twitter and his articles. It was getting a little bit spicy, and I was reading this like, I can't believe what I'm reading. It almost seems gossip calling me, but he does it. It's funny because Ian does it in his Ian way, where he's like, I can't tell you for sure if this is the case, but this is what I heard. Is that right? So I love the way Ian reports it, but. So if you guys haven't heard, Cam Reddish, you already guys know Cam Reddish hasn't really touched the floor for the Knicks in a long time. And Ian Begley's reported that Cam Reddish had an issue with the way Tom Thibodeau was using him. He reached out to an assistant coach, and ever since then, coincidentally, he hasn't played a game since then, and he hasn't even played in garbage time, which is interesting to me. And me personally, I get a lot of hate for doing this online, but I do feel like a lot of Knicks fans overrate Cam Reddish. Dexter, you don't have to say anything out loud, Dexter. I want you to still have fans. People hate me already for saying that, but you know, we actually went on an 8-game winning streak since he's been benched, right? But I will say this: if it is indeed that he hasn't got any playing time just because he expressed displeasure with his role, if that's the reason why he hasn't gotten playing time, then the biggest brother tips, because there's definitely times where, even though I felt like we went on a winning streak without Cam Reddish, there was definitely times, and the Spurs game really sticks out to me, where we only had 7 guys. We were getting killed by long winged offensive plays by the Spurs, and we needed a long wing to combat that. And we just kind of overran our players. And if Tibbs didn't play him because he was displeased with that, then, dude, come on, man, grow up. He's 60 something. I hope that's not the case. That just sounds ridiculous, though, man. Dexter, man, tell me something.
I would say, this is what I will say. I would tell people, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds petty as hell.
Yeah.
And it probably is. But considering some things that I had heard before the season started, okay? I said this on another show, so I'll say it here. I had heard from people that know that, you know, and this has been reported too, that Tibbs was not really a big fan of Cam. And I don't think I know that he really wasn't before the season and would have liked to have seen him off the roster. Now, it's funny. I was talking to somebody else about this, JL. And it was right before, it was maybe a little bit before the Knicks were on their streak, and then they'd had the loss in Dallas, which was absolutely terrible, in San Antonio. And yes, I know, Lee, you were at the game. You had messaged me after that.
Yes, you know, Lee. He was getting booed.
Lee let me know he was feeling the pain. And I thought the same thing as you, JLS. When they did not play him in that San Antonio game, I was like, oh, it's a wrap for dude, right? Like this is not happening anymore. Exactly what you said. If you don't, this is what I'll say, and I'm not saying this with any definitiveness or reporting on this at all whatsoever. So I don't want to say that, but I can tell you, I know Tibbs was not a fan of Cam Reddish, especially particularly his defensive effort. But you think, with coaching, you want to do what's best to win, right? So if you need the bodies, you think you're going to play them. And I understand all that, whatever. I also do tend to agree with Jay Ellis here that I do think Knicks Nation tends to overrate Cam Reddish a little bit, right? Like, he did play well. Now, do I think it was fair that when he had the bad defensive situations against Dallas, the home Dallas game, because obviously he didn't play in the road Dallas game, which is pretty much was the end it was a wrap for him after that.
Mm-hmm.
Did he need to get benched or pulled? Fine. But I don't know how he didn't earn his way. It was the opportunity to put Grimes in the starting lineup. Grimes went to the starting lineup. He's never left the starting lineup at all whatsoever. But I think the point that I was going to make here is that what we have to look at with this, with Ian coming out and reporting this, and Ian doesn't report anything. I don't have to justify him as a reporter. He's a good friend and a great reporter. I've known him a long time. Nothing that's not true.
Absolutely.
This is Cam's camp coming out. The timing is very interesting, guys. This is Cam's camp coming out, knowing that now we're a week away, 8 days before the trade deadline. And let's put this out there, because I want it to be known, I want off this team. I want off this ship. Y'all need to move me. Now, one of the interesting things that I thought Ian quoted from his camp was that he said that he's not interested in any DNPs. And to that, I was like, well, what are you going to do if they don't trade you? There's not much he can do at all whatsoever. But I think the Knicks, what I would say is they probably need to get him off the team because I foresaw this coming. If they didn't move him, and I've talked to other people about this, if they didn't move him, it's going to become contentious. He's going to become a malcontent. It's not energy you want around the team. The problem for the Knicks is you gave a first rounder for him. Everybody in the world knows he doesn't want to be there. Everybody also knows that you're trying to trade him. So you don't have much value. At this point, if the Knicks can get a second round pick back, they better consider themselves happy because I don't think there's much else they can do. And no, I'm going to be honest. Do I think Cam Reddish could help this team with bench scoring right now? Maybe he could, but I don't know if it would make that much of a difference, right? Like, I don't think Cam Reddish is saving this team in any way. It's a failed experiment. It's bad. Is Tibbs probably being a little bit petty or a lot petty here? Yes. Is that probably a good look for your coach? No. But here we are. This is what it is. It's all ammunition more for Lee to hold up the fire tip.
Let's go.
This
Let's
is
go.
what Lee is going to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is what it's going to do. So it's a situation that I think is going to be resolved. I think Reddish gets moved. It wouldn't shock me if he ends up on the Lakers. It wouldn't shock me if he plays there. And I know Knicks fans will be sick to their stomach, but it wouldn't shock me. But the Knicks don't have much leverage here. I'm not also sure how much leverage Reddish has, but I think the Knicks probably want him off the team because it sounds like he's letting it be known this is a contentious situation. I don't want to be around it. We'll see how that unfolds.
Yeah. And him and OG, don't they have the same agency? So that's a bad
Both
look
Rich
too.
Paul clutch clients. You're right. You're right about that.
Yep.
Mhm.
So that's not good at all. Go ahead, Ryan G. You go ahead. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so what I want to know is when Cam made those comments, was that before or after the Dallas game?
That's a great question.
Wait, you talking about the first Dallas game, Ryan?
No, the one that the
The
last
second Dallas game.
I know why he's
I
saying
don't
that
know.
too.
Yeah, because I'm saying if he made those comments before the Dallas game, maybe that explains his effort in the Dallas game, why he showed up and he didn't play good and he didn't play well at all, which eventually led to his benching. And yeah, Thibs is petty Pendergrass. He's petty LaBelle. But yeah, like the whole camp situation, like I agree with pretty much everything, Dexter said, and pretty much everybody's been saying. I do think that there were certain times in the season where Cam could have gotten playing time. And if Cam really just said that he didn't like his role in the team, like I don't think that warrants benching somebody and not have them play at all.
Yeah.
You have a lot of players where in the league where I'm pretty sure they don't like their role in the team. And whether they voice it or not, but they still play though. They still contribute to the team regardless. So I really don't know the reasoning as to why he's being benched if he said that. But, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, Cam needs to be moved. I mean, it really makes no sense for him to stay on the roster because he's not being used. And, just having him there accumulate DMPs, like that really can't be, a good thing for the Raptors within the locker room, I think, guys like Rose, Fournier are probably more, they're more like, I guess they're more accepting. Like they don't like the fact that they don't play, but they're not the guys that's going to really like mess up a locker room. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to really make a whole lot of noise where it's like, yeah, I'm not getting playing time. I want off this team. So, the fact that Cam's camp is making that kind of noise saying that, they don't like he doesn't like his role in the team and he doesn't want to be here. Like, yeah, that makes it essential on the Knicks to move. You just have to bite the bullet.
If it's a personal thing, then I can see why it would make noise though. Cause like the Tibbs not liking Cam narrative has been around since last year. So if that's actually true and it's now I'm in my contract year and you're DNP me even when half the team is injured, I can't blame kid. And I'm saying that as a guy who's not the biggest Cam fan, but if I'm in that situation, I might do what Cam did. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's human nature.
I want to add one thing because here's the thing too, right? Like I think that the thing that probably annoys Tibbs about this whole situation when I read Ian's quote on that is that Cam, remember in that quote, Cam went to one of the assistants to let the assistants know that he didn't like it. It's almost like he couldn't go talk to Tibbs directly. So it makes you wonder two things, right? Either Cam didn't feel like he could speak to him straight up,
right,
or it had been so contentious between them before that there was no opportunity for them to speak straight up. And either way, you got to look at when things are released and leaked and all this stuff and how this goes. It's also trying to make Tibbs look bad in this situation. And I'm kind of with you on this, Jay Ellis, on this too, right? It's the only card that Cam can play here, right? Like, you might not like it, you might not like the way you went about it or whatever it may be, but it's the only card he could play. And it's like he's trying to get PT and get somewhere else where he's trying to go. So this is the card you could play when you're 8 days away from the trade deadline, and it is what it is.
It's contract year. Like, now that's dead. So it's like, don't get me out of here.
Right.
Get me out of here.
I think there's blame on all three parties. Cam Reddish is definitely overrated. I've been harsh on Tibbs' handling of this situation, but that doesn't mean that Cam Reddish has not given consistent effort on defense or played within whatever system Tibbs is running consistently on offense either. I think he's been kind of like looking after his own stats for the most part and playing a lot of ISO ball when he was out there early in the season. So I'm not like, let's keep Cam at all costs. Let's give him 25 minutes a game. I'm not on that boat, but I do think there's been some heavy pettiness on Tibbs' side, and we're stuck in a time loop. This isn't the first time that Tibbs has done this. Tibbs did this in Minnesota with Zach LaVine, with Jimmy Butler. He has a history of rubbing guys the wrong way because he's always been his way or the highway on defense, on offense, and rotations. I mean, I got a quote here. This is from Taj Gibson, his right-hand man, his number one intern. He's like a kid playing 2K. He's always raging no matter what. He's raging throughout the whole game. He doesn't care. He's always on you, good or bad. He's on you. You just got to block him out sometimes. That's Taj Gibson, bro. Been with him with all three stops. This man is a petty 13-year-old going through puberty, getting in field the very first time. This is who he is. This is who he's going to be. He's 65 years old, been coaching for 15 years. He should be a defensive expert as an assistant coach, not a head coach. Man has a 3-year timetable, and he's hit an expiration date. I'm just saying. I'm just giving you the facts. I also think it's on Leon Rose for going after a guy he knew didn't fit his best friend's game plan and depreciating a first-round pick in order to get him. There needs to be some blame on Leon Rose for even getting Cam Reddish in the first place, knowing he didn't fit, knowing Tibbs didn't want him. Is there not communication back and forth between those two boomers on who they want on the team and who they don't? Come on, man. Like, there needs to be better communication and more transparent communication with the players that you're bringing in through trades, free agency, and draft.
That's fair. That's 100% fair. All good points, Lee.
Took a lob, slam dunk that.
It's like, but even if I'm Leon Rose, right? I have Kevin Knox here who hasn't worked out. I have a first round pick who's heavily protected. I'm not giving Kevin Knox any bread. I don't blame him for making that move and kicking the can down the road and bringing a guy here who has upside and people around the league thinks that. Like, I feel like as a front office, if even knowing what I know today, if faced with that same decision as a front office last year, like, it still makes sense to me, but it's like, but I don't know. It's like, but Tom gotta Tisby tibbing, man. Tisby do.
Enough said.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, like, I understand the whole thing with Kevin Knox and, having him, moving him somewhere else to where, he can get playing time elsewhere and bringing in somebody that Tibbs could possibly use to, to get playing time to improve the team. But I think at the same time, like, I'm a firm believer in, as a front office, you build the team, you bring in players through trades, you sign free agents or whatever the case may be to improve the roster. But I think at the same time, like, I feel like the front office should be on the same, they should at least, have a rapport with the coach as well. You should know what kind of players your coach wants, what kind of players your coach is going to play, players fit that coach's system or whatever the case may be. So it's like, as a front office, you really can't just make a trade and be like, okay, we're going to bring this player in and not even consult with the coach, whether that player is going, if he's okay with that player being on the roster and if he fits his system or whatever the case may be. Like, there has to be at least some line of communication, before you make a move like that and be like, okay, like, at least go up to Tibbs and be like, all right, we're thinking about bringing in this player. Is this a player that fits the system? Is this a player that you're going to use and play? You know what I mean?
I have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about that. because Tibbs got fired from the Timberwolves because he was the GM. So do I really just want to bring every single player that Tom wants to bring in? Like, are we still trying to bring back Reggie Bullock because Tom Thibodeau likes him? No. Like, I don't know, man. Like, this is a team sport. This is a whole team. It's not Tom's way or the highway. It's I get both sides, man. Like,
but that's
I don't
the
know.
thing. That's the thing, right, Jay Ellis? Right? I think this is a interesting point for the Knicks team and fan base and everything, because this shows you why coaching matters. I was just talking about this on the show the other day. Coaching matters, and also the way what Ryan's talking about and Lee is also talking about, the way the front office and the coaches work together, right? Like everybody's got to, you're not always going to agree, but you got to try to be on the same page, excuse me, and have the same vision of what you're trying to get to. And I think it's fair for some people to look at the Knicks and question, what is exactly that vision, right? Like, what is it they're trying to do? What kind of team they're trying to build? And where I am with Tibbs, I am not as far as Lee, right? Like, I'm not on the holding up the fire Tibbs sign, but I do think I'm at the point now where I'm looking at this Knicks team, and you look at the issues, the offensive issues, forget the Cam stuff, but you look at the offensive issues, and I'm like, okay, maybe Tibbs has done his job here. Maybe he's come in, he's changed the culture, which has been good. He's got them to the play. He's got them to, if this year to make the playoffs is 2 out of 3 years, this is much better than Knicks fans have seen in pretty much the last 10 to 15 years, okay? He's done that, but now it's time for another voice to take them to another level, to bring the things that they can do offensively and defensively. Somebody could come in and say, this is who we're going to play. We're going to invest into these young players. This is our core.
Yeah.
Obi's going to make sure he gets his minutes, right? Because I'm actually sick and tired of having a conversation with Knicks fans why Obi doesn't get more minutes and all this other stuff. I think what Knicks fans want is, what is the direction of the team, right? Like, where they're going. They do have an identity. I don't want to say they don't. This is a hard, scrappy team that people don't want to play, and I like how they play, right? Especially all of us who grew up in the 90s watching Knicks. You're going to like the way they play a little bit to some degree, but the offense can't look like it's the 90s, and that's part of the problem, right? Things have to change with that. And I wonder I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I wonder if it's time for a new voice. And Ime Udoka is out there waiting without a job, and I would not mind if the Knicks went and hired him. I think that would not be a bad move at all.
I knew I loved you, Dexter. Twins, bruh.
Dexter, this has
Except
been
I'm not holding up the fire Tibbs sign.
This has been a topic of conversation here for the last probably month. I will say this: I'm moving closer to Lee's side this week because of the last couple of games. The last game specifically with the Julius Randle ISO on the right side of the ball. Today's win might have bought my headspace a little bit more time. But I've always said with Lee that I already knew for the future Tom Thibodeau isn't going to be the coach to bring us to the promised land because of his inadequacies as a guy who can adjust on the fly and be like an offensive coach. But he is what he is, right? He's a culture setter. He set our culture on the right trajectory. And for us, I always felt like if we can get to the playoffs with this coach and have this look of a pristine franchise, we'll be that much closer to bringing in an all-star because we look like a stable franchise. And then we can switch out the coach maybe a year next year or so. So that's why I always was like, I know he's not going to coach. He's not the coach of the future for me, but maybe if we just hold on and keep progressing in the right direction, then we'll be fine. And it was easier to say that when you're on an 8-game winning streak, seeing some of these problems, you know?
Right. Now I feel you on that, but I think that's not a crazy thought or thinking, right? Like, I'm not on the let's fire Tibbs tomorrow, situation. I'm not really on that, but I just wonder if at the end of year 3, we've kind of run the course that we've got there, especially they make the playoffs 2 years in a row, like they said, or they are competitive in the playoffs this year. Like you said, Jonathan, I think it's that. I'm just wondering, are we approaching this time? And I was probably more on the other side of where Lee was and being like, no, I'm on the Tibbs train. Like, I think he could get it done. I didn't mind the hire when they made it, but I think I was kind of like you Jonathan, where it was just, I know what this is. So it's, in a weird way, I'm not that mad at it. Like I understand what it is. It's just the scary thing is, and I wonder if this is what happens with Lee, is that you hope that the organization and team, they don't try to go too far down the road and they're like, oh man, let's squeeze another year out of this. Sometimes you got to recognize when something is what it is,
Right.
and you are where you are, or it might be a sunk cost or whatever you want to call it. And this is just it. But now we got to try to get it to the next level. You know, I know we don't want to talk about the Nets here, but even the Nets recognized that recently with Steve Nash and Jacque Vaughn. And we've seen the impact that Jacque Vaughn has had on changing the culture in that team. And probably, I don't know if they'll get to the next level because they're a head case, but maybe changing that in that way. Sometimes you have to look and say, you know what, this ain't it.
Yeah.
This is good, but we need to do better. We look competent, but we need to be better.
Yeah. I mean, and it's easy to recognize with the Nets because if you have Kevin Durant and freaking Kyrie Irving, you shouldn't be like 1-20, you know? So it's like, it's very obvious with the Nets. With us, it's like, okay, he wasn't the first option on his team. You know, Julius Randle wasn't the guy last year. We don't have a quote unquote superstar here. So it's harder to say if it's coaching. Now we know it's some coaching problems are happening, but it's harder to say talent versus coaching, which is a bigger piece of the blame pie, is what I'll say.
Listen, I think when you look at it, like, I think what you have to ask yourself is he getting the most he can out of this team? It's fair if somebody wants to say no, because you could look at the Knicks games and say there's probably, I could say 3 to 4 games they legitimately should have won extra that because they blew or didn't close it out in crunch time, right? We could say that. But does Tibbs probably have this team talent-wise right around what they should be? Yeah, he does. He's not a terrible coach. And I don't think we should be Debbie Downers because, you know, look, the Knicks are 3 games over 500. They just ended the 2-game skid. They beat the Heat. They're not in a bad spot. That was a big game for them beating the Heat because they're ahead of them in the standings. They're not in a bad spot. This is a team that can finish top 6 in the playoffs. I think they can win 43, 44 games. I think that's possible. All things I thought before the season. So at the end of the day, I'm not really, you know, I don't think you could look at the Knicks and say they're in a bad spot. They still have a lot of picks. They're in the middle, but they have options with their picks and things they have. I think it's just about how they make the moves, what moves they make, and also what they decide to do with coaching, because I think that's part of the moves too, and getting the front office and coaching staff aligned together, like myself, Ryan, and Lee were all saying. I think all that stuff matters, but I don't think the Knicks are in a bad spot.
Me neither.
I think fans should actually look at this and say, yo, this team is way more competent than they've been in a long time. Like, when's the last time we really talked about some scandals or ridiculousness with the Knicks or anything like that? You know, the worst thing last year was like Julius Randle going like this. That was the worst thing we saw last year. If that is the low of Knick problems, which shows you how low they were before, it's a lot better situation now. It's not that bad. That's all I'm saying.
Listen,
I see people in the chat that are being like, oh, why y'all angry after a win? I think it's healthy to be objective. And Ryan, I know Ryan feels the same way, to give proper due and credence to the good and the bad of every element of our team, from the ownership to front office coaching and players on down. I also think this is not 7 years ago where it was David Fisdale, Derek Fisher, Jeff Hornacek. These are objectively bad coaches, people who should not be given a job, and I would put Steve Nash in the same category, to ever coach a professional basketball team as the head of the snake, ever. I remember yelling, scream Derek Fisher in my grungy, nasty apartment to my roaches and the rats that were hanging out on the wall. I was dead broke. They were the only people who listened to me. So I live in Dallas. There's no kids over here besides my pops. So the roaches were like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But I wanted him gone because I felt like he wasn't a good high basketball IQ, competent tactician. Tom Thibodeau, I don't feel that way about. Tom Thibodeau is an above average coach who has marked and measured success, come into bad teams, not just bad teams, desperate franchises, taking them out of the sewer and the gutter and making them respectable. He did it with Chicago, post Jordan. He did it with Minnesota, post Kevin Love, and he did it now with the Knicks. Post David Fisdale, Steve Mills, and KP. He did it. But it's also okay and healthy to project into the future and say, well, if we did have an SGA or we had a Anthony Edwards, could the Tibbs take that centerpiece now and the supporting cast we have and win a championship with it? And when I look at all the evidence that it isn't statistically, I say hell no.
Yeah.
And I get even more frustrated when I look at the trades, because I really think Leon Rose has given draft control to probably World Wide West and Walt Parrott. I really believe they're the ones making the calls on the draft. I think Tibbs really focuses on trades and free agent signings. I might be wrong. This is all speculation, but I think he's done a pretty bad job outside of Brunson in bringing in guys that Tibbs can use. Derrick Rose might be the exception, but Albert Burks, Nerlens Noel, those re-signings didn't work out. Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, Cam Reddish, those didn't work out. There needs to be better unison. You would think the two best friends like Tibbs and Leon would have better synergy, working together and communicating to building a roster that made sense for all parties involved. And they haven't. And to me, that's an issue. And I also worry about Leon Rose ever firing this guy, because they're also best friends, and the optics would be awful to fire your splashes higher. I say this every opportunity I can. He will play out his 5-year contract.
Well, that's not gonna make you happy.
I liked Alec Burks.
Yes, Burks wasn't good for us though.
Burks was a good signing. It just went bad when Thibs started to use him as a point guard.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but I still feel like Alec Burks was a good signing. That's just me.
In his normal position, like he was actually productive for the Knicks.
He was very productive. I just wanted IQ to play starting point guard last year instead of Alec Burks. Alec Burks should have just been a wing. But that's a whole other story. That's off of the tangent. I get the sentiment. And guys, we talked all the good stuff early on. The conversation has evolved since then. All right. But salute to the chat. Shout out to everybody. Let me get to these super chats because I was waiting for a nice time to break. But the conversation was flowing. I didn't want to break the flow. So shout out to the super chats. We got a $5 super chat from Gamer's Channel. Shout out to you. Thank you. You've been super chatting it up for this week. Thank you, Gamer Channel. And shout out to the preacher Jay Boogie. He sends a $10 super chat. So shout out to the chat. Blessings, health, happiness to all. Big shout out to Julius, aka the Black Messiah, aka Kodak Randall, top of the All-Star. We back in Utah. Big up the panels on target. Hit that like button. Shout out to my guy, the preacher, sending us a love. All right. Oh man, good combo, guys. I'm gonna just get to some little bit of OG news and we can end it there. So Dexter, you already know Knicks are in the OG Anunoby hunt.
Yep.
And we are not the only ones. All right. Because before I was like, oh yeah, it's us and Phoenix Suns. Nah, it's us, the Phoenix Suns, and half of the NBA now. I heard the Pelicans are one in. I've heard the Lakers one in, but the Lakers don't really have much to offer. But I've heard like there's other teams who actually won in. Where do you stand on the Knicks acquiring Anunoby? Because I know the rumor was the Knicks offered 3 first-round picks. So first, do you feel like that's too high of a price?
Yes. Yes. And I like OG Anunoby a lot. I think he's a nice piece to add to your team that I think he's going to be a really good player on a championship team, right? Like he could be a good third option. The thing is, OG Anunoby on the Knicks would be nice. The question is, what's the price and what are you giving up, right? Like 3 first rounders, and I'd like to know what the protections on those are. That would matter to me too, is a lot. And also, I think if you're the Knicks right now, and this goes back to what we were talking about before, where you are right now in terms of your team development matters. Okay, if you get OG Anunoby, what does that make you? Does that make you a top 4 team in the East? I would say no. Does that give you a first round win? Is that a team that can really do something with what's currently constructed? Probably not. And if Masai Ujiri, who's fleeced the Knicks once before, actually twice, you might look at it, he's going to try to get a lot here. And 3 first round picks is a lot. Now, just because that's out there, guys, doesn't mean that that's what the cost is going to be. You know what I mean? Masai Ujiri might float out 3, but he's really trying to get 2. This is how this stuff goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, sometimes we've seen teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves overpay for Rudy Gobert. And this is something I've been saying, you know what I mean? It's almost the anti of the Fat Joe, yesterday's price is not today's price, right? Like,
right.
Just because somebody was yesterday's sucker and paid a high price for something doesn't mean that like everybody else is going to do it in terms of trades following that. I think OG would be a nice piece that could fit into what the Knicks culture is right now. I'm just not sure that's the move they need right now. and how that really moves the needle for them. I might think a little bit lower. I might think about a Malik Beasley, maybe trying to get him with a package with Jared Vanderbilt. But see, all these players have high interest. We're talking about teams like Toronto, who everybody knows they might want to sell all their players. Utah, we all know they're going to try to sell all their players. Their team is looking to sell. So the competition is going to be fierce, as you mentioned, Jay Ellis, that a lot of people are going to go for them. If I'm the Knicks, like if it was 2 picks, would I think about it? Probably. I think about it. You know, if it's 2 picks and you know, besides, I don't see how Masai wouldn't want either IQ or Grimes. And if I'm the Knicks right now, do you want to give those players up?
Hell to the no.
I'm not saying that they're the greatest untouchable players for you not to give up, but do you not want to give those players up for OG Anunoby? If you weren't going to give some of those players up for Donovan Mitchell, you can't just hand them over for OG Anunoby. And that's no shade to OG Anunoby, who's a very good player. I'm just saying I don't think it's worth the price, and I don't think it necessarily moves the needle for the Knicks to just lock down the 6th seed or something. I don't think it's necessarily worth it. I think there's maybe a fringe move. I don't remember if it was Ryan, you said this earlier, about maybe you get a shooter that's younger, not an old vet. That might have been you, Lee. Not necessarily to get an old vet, but a younger shooter, whether it's like a Josh Hart, a Malik Beasley, like I mentioned.
I would love Josh Hart.
Yeah, I like Josh Hart too. I think he would be a good fit. I think a move more in that vein, somebody that you could bring in that can add to the culture of what you had without having to give up too much and shake up too much. Look, the Knicks still need a star. We all know this. This team is going to need a star player that can elevate others. They do not have that. It's a nice team, nice little team, plays hard, fans like it, but to get to the next level, they need a star. OG Anunoby, to me, is better suited to go to a team maybe like a Phoenix, a Memphis, that needs that kind of 3rd, 4th piece that can push them over the top. And see, that's a team I think that might be willing to give up 2, 3 first-round picks. The Knicks, where they are right now, not really sure OG is worth that price.
Yeah. I don't know if you already know my stance. I said my stance a million times. But
you want OG? You want OG, Joe?
Yeah, I'm cool with OG. And for me, it's all about protections. Like we have this Wizards pick and these Detroit picks that, you know, they're like protected. They're like what, top 15 protected picks.
Right. They're not going to convey for a couple of years.
You're right. Like if you're giving them the protected picks, I'm cool with it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm definitely not giving them nobody named IQ or Grimes. I'm not doing that at all. If you want IQ or Grimes, I'm walking away. You can have that. But I would definitely consider moving OB, considering his situation here, knowing that he's not going to, you know, really get the time he needs to be OB. And even with Randall here and the way this system is run, he's not going to be able to. You're never going to really see Obi Toppin's value rise to the rise to a place where you can be like, all right, he's a 1st round pick if I trade him, because he just doesn't have the time to prove it. So I would do something like that. And when it comes to Malik Beasley, anybody who struggles defensively in general, I'm very wary of bringing here. So that's the Malik Beasley falls into that category for me. Sadiq Bey, I know people argue Sadiq Bey was a better defender earlier in college and his 1st year, but last year, you know, this year, I mean, he's been shaky. So I'm kind of nervous about bringing him here and have Tibbs tip. You know what I mean? so
you made me think of something, Jonathan, that I hadn't considered. I hadn't really thought about Obi's name being put out there. What if, I'm gonna throw this out there, see what you guys think. Obi, Reddish, 2 picks being those heavily protected picks from Washington and what do we have, Milwaukee, and I'm forgetting the other, and Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, let me take it back, because I think Masai is going to want one of our own that would be unprotected. So one of our own unprotected, one of those heavily protected picks, Obi and Reddish for OG. Are you doing it?
I would put a trigger on that.
I would do it.
See that I think it's a fair. See the reason I would like Lee. Would you do that trade? You like that trade?
Does that include a Knicks pick?
Yes, one of the Knicks' own picks that they control, and maybe they put some kind of protection on it. But one of the heavily protected picks, either from Milwaukee, Detroit, or Washington, along with Obi and Reddish, to get you OG.
No.
You wouldn't do it. Okay. The only reason I thought about that, and it wasn't until Jonathan said that made me think about it, was why something like that might work a little bit better is, okay, you're getting some consolidation, because that's something I actually think the Knicks have to do with this roster. Some players are going to have to go. And we talked about likely how Obi's probably going to go. You're not going to be able to pay him and IQ, right? So there's going to have to be some sort of consolidation. Now, if you can consolidate, get a guy back in who shoots for a career over 37% from three, who we know could defend. That was a concern of John. Doesn't want to bring in somebody you can't defend. Understand all that. You can do that while you're consolidating a bit of the roster. We get rid of so now, but the only people that are going to be mad is the Cam Hive and the Obi Hive, because now they can't cry anymore about the fact that they don't play. But you got a guy in here who could definitely play, right? Like so. Yeah. It's interesting. It's that might be a trade. I think about it, man. Ryan, you said you'll do it. I think I would do it. I think if that was the price, I'd do it. If it was the unprotected picks, or you got to put a light protection on one of your own picks, I'd do it. Which I don't think Masai's going to want. He's going to want at least one pick that he can control.
That's ridiculous. Oh, he's you can't have a completely pure pick for like a guy who's a B+ player. Like, come on.
Yeah, but the problem, but the thing is, when it comes to these trades, right, is that it's all about, well, he's like, oh, if you don't pay, somebody else might pay, or somebody else might be that desperate. And he's right. It really comes down to, like, it's a game of chicken, like who's going to blink first, or who's going to pay what for what price. But this is where it comes down to what Lee was talking about too, as a front office and a coaching staff. Y'all got to be on the same page. You got to know what the price is that you're trying to pay, what it is you're trying to do, what kind of players you're trying to add, and what you think that cost is. Even if the four of us here and fans in the chat, they may all have a different price for what they would do, and that's all fair. But there has to come to some consensus as a working organization as to like what that price is going to be and what you're going to do. I hadn't really thought about Obi till you brought it up, John, but considering the fact that he's not playing, and we know Reddish also wants to be out of here, and Toronto's looking for some high upside players to go along with picks that they would want. It's not crazy. It's not wild at all. Yeah. For
me, I don't want to include an Obi and a Knicks pick together just for OG. I'd be willing to do that deal and include a protected top 10 minimum and Obi if they also toss in Gary Trent Jr. If we were able to add some length with Trent Jr. and OG, and then maybe give him Reddish in return to help match the salary. I mean, Rose in return, then I would do it. But just for OG, no. But if we can get two long guys in return, where
is Gary long? Gary's not long.
Yeah, he's 6'5".
He's like 6'5".
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Rhymes is like 6'4", 6'5".
Are you going to?
I'm thinking 6'7" and up in my brain. Even though I hear what you're saying.
I would,
because he's a free agent, and so once you make a move like that, you almost, I feel like, committing to re-signing him in the offseason. I also don't mind how you're thinking there too, Lee, because you're saying like, okay, what other value can we get for players that are going to be into this culture, which was a comment I made earlier, right? It's like whatever you're going to trade for, if you're going to consolidate in one way, then you got to make sure you bring back guys that can be part of what you're doing, that can grow with your core. Gary Trent's a fine, nice player. Helps us with something we talked about at the beginning of the show, right? Bench scoring. Which is severely lack. He's not the greatest defender. He's okay. We know OG is a plus defender. I'm not crazy. And what did you say, Lee? You said you put a top 10 protection?
Yeah, top 10 protection.
Top 10 protected. I would definitely extend Gary Trent Jr. because he doesn't just need to be shooting. He can actually create off the dribble too.
Straight off the bounce.
He's not trying to add guys and get their own shot. He's actually better at getting his own shot than even OG. He's 17 points a game, only 23 years old. He's a solid. I mean, it's a lot of pluses checking off the boxes for him as an addition.
So give me that again. You'd want Trent and OG.
Yeah.
Right. And you said you'd be willing to give up Obi, Reddish,
Obi, and
any
Reddish
combination of McBride, Rose.
Oh, Obi, McBride, and Rose. Any combination. What'd you say? Ryan? Say that again.
I said Toronto's not going to do that though.
I don't think so either. I think Reddish and Obi will get it done for them.
I would give him a Knicks pick and the Dallas pick in Milwaukee.
You would need Rose in that deal for the salary though. That you would need. There's no doubt. I haven't looked at all numbers right in front of me, but you're gonna need one of those. But now Rose is valuable to them because he's an expiring contract. So there is value in that. They're getting cap relief. They're getting picks. I think the holdup in that deal you mentioned, Lee, is would Masai want that top 10 protection to be on that pick? I think he's going to hold back on that and fight on that. I think he would. I think that I like your deal. I just don't think he's going to want at least one first rounder he can control if he's giving up OG.
Yeah, I believe. I think OG is worth one unprotected pick. I do think he's worth that as a player. So I think
that's a fine price.
Yeah, I think it's fair to give up one unprotected pick and one protected pick plus players for OG. I think that's a fair trade.
If Gary Trent comes back, no protection. I'll do it.
Also, two players who we all are saying here that we don't think factor into the future. And to the point that you made, Lee, Gary Trent's a player, I forgot he was only 23. Good point on that.
Yep.
And he can be part of the future. He can create a little bit off the bounce. He's a nice bench player. And you're getting a guy who could defend it. You could say fits into Tibbs' system and beyond, because we talked about beyond that can happen. So it's not. See, look, we came together. Crazy. We made some good trades here.
And then on top of that, because the other argument I'm hearing is, well, that doesn't make us a championship team. But here's the thing that does do though, like even if a star was to come, you can easily flip OG and Gary Trent with the picks to bring in a star, because OG is wanted around the league, so I don't think it'll make us better in the short term. On top of that, it goes with our age timeline with the young guys. Right. And on top of that, if we want to go for all-star later on, we'll have our picks, and you can say, and I'll include OG, or maybe I'll say I include Grimes. We'll have enough talent, kind of like the Cavs did. We'll have enough talent to actually move them and then bring something back, and it won't hurt. You know what I mean? So I would definitely do that.
I think we've all, man, they should put us in the front office, man. I feel like we all just came up with a pretty decent trade here, or at least somewhat of a consensus to a decent trade here.
I know. I haven't looked at the chat yet. They might be throwing tomatoes. I don't know.
I haven't looked. I'm gonna take a look, man. They might not like the trade. I see somebody said if we got OG and Gary Trent, we'd be tough out in the playoffs. I don't disagree with that, and I also think the point John made too. It doesn't mess up the timeline. It fits right in well, and I don't think the price being paid. I think you're being fair on that, Ryan. I don't think the price being paid is insane. It's pretty fair value. Now, 3 first rounders, nah. I'll be like, if Masai said that, I'd be like, yo, you tripping, man. Like that, nah. We can't do that. But I think one of the protected ones, one control of one, OB and Reddish.
I'm with.
And you got those 2 players back, because I'm glad Lee said that. Lee saying that you're trying to get a little bit more back. That's not, and throwing a Rose, like I said, that's not a bad deal at all, man. That's a pretty fair. I think it's a deal that works for both sides. Got him right now. Got him right now.
The only thing I'm worried about was, I don't know, Brian Windsor's. He said that they might be looking more for young players than picks, and the Pelicans are interested. You already know the Pelicans are loaded with everything, so. They got picks, they got young players up the wazoo, so you just don't know with the Pelicans. So, I mean, but the deal we talked about, I'm comfortable with that deal.
I think if OG's traded by next Thursday, I think that's one that's going to come down to the wire, because I think he's going to be in high demand with his skill set on how he can help a team. And a team like the Pelicans, who was at the top of the West and they've been sliding, they can use him. I'll say Memphis. I think Memphis would be perfect for him. If Memphis gets him, they're scary. He's like that last piece they need, But he could be. I know I said that. What would he do with the Knicks? I like Lee's trade more if you get Gary Trent, because I think that does more for the team in the short and long term than just getting OG. And it sort of rebalances the roster a little bit too. So there's some things I would like about that.
Okay.
If Masai wants young guys, McBride, Reddish, and Obi are all young.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Picks for Timmy says, "I love y'all, but stay the hell away from our front office." Our own have turned on us.
Oh man.
Shout out to my guy Picks with it. Oh man, salute to the chat though. Everybody's rocking with the channel. If you like the show, hit that like and subscribe. We're here after every game talking Knicks basketball. All right, so shout out to you guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. I think we talked enough. Unless, do you guys have any final words, or you want to mention anything that you feel like I've missed? Speak now.
I will just say before we leave, it was a pleasure to be on with you guys. Knick of Time Show, you guys are doing great stuff.
Appreciate it.
We talked about this before we got on. We have to keep supporting independent media. We have to continue to support minority-owned media, people of color with media. That stuff's important. So I'm really happy that you guys have me on your platform. Glad to come back. I think the Knicks are in a good space. Knicks fans shouldn't be down. It's been a roller coaster season. I keep saying that every time Lee comes on the show with me. It's been a crazy up and down season.
Yes.
But I think they're in a good space, and I think Knicks fans shouldn't be down. Good win tonight. Let's see what they can do to close out this homestand. But it's a good win. It's going to be positive. I know Lee's going to keep up the fire Tibbs energy.
Absolutely.
But that's why you got Ryan and Jonathan to help balance him out with that. You know what I'm saying? You need a little bit of the balance there. And that matters. But now, man, you guys are doing a great show. I want to really salute that. I really wanted to say that publicly. You guys are doing a great show, and salute to the fans too, because you're nothing without the people that support you.
Absolutely.
And as somebody who's done a lot in their career from independent media, I know you're nothing without the people. So salute to all the Knicks fans out there supporting and supporting the show. And you're gonna see these guys, Ryan and Jonathan and Lee. They're going to be on with me, making appearances on the New York Post and SNY and, my NBA Exchange show. So, we'll be collaborating more. That's what we're supposed to do. So
absolutely.
Blessings, guys. Appreciate
Blessings.
it. Appreciate it.
You saying my government? They don't even know my government. They're like, who's Jonathan?
Oh, my bad. My bad. We can't put you out there like that.
Now y'all know what the J stands for.
Yeah.
But salute to you guys. Oh, I have one last thing to say. I do, Ryan G, have a bruh pick. All right. Bruh pick for the day. If you guys don't know, bruh pick usually is something stupid that happened, or an idiotic basketball play, or it can be an event, or just something stupid that happened in the world. We call it a bruh pick. And today, I will give that bruh pick to my man, Isaiah Hartenstein. All right. Isaiah Hartenstein, great game. He's had a great few games. But today in the first quarter, I don't know, he rushed it somehow. And he ended up like sky hooking a point blank layup. And the ball sailed in the air kind of high and bounced off the side of the rim. And I kind of got secondhand embarrassment watching him blow that layup. So for Black History Month, first day of Black History Month, I want to give a bruh to Isaiah Hartenstein. And I'm only saying that because if you guys didn't know, Isaiah Hartenstein is half black. All right. he's invoking the spirit of Charles Smith for today's game. Shout out to my man, Isaiah Hartenstein. Great game though. Great game all the way. I'm glad we won the game. All right.
I do got two bro picks though.
Oh, you got two? Okay.
Two. Okay.
The first bro pick goes to Julius Randle, because there was a play in the game where I think he was either driving to the basket or he was posting up, and he wanted to pass the ball to Sims. And I know Sims is athletic, but he's out of bounds. So that's my first bro pick right there.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned it in the chat. My second bro pick goes to Dylan Brooks, because I don't know if y'all saw the clip, but the Cavaliers and the Grizzlies are playing, and him and Donovan Mitchell had kind of a little mix-up, and my man went below the belt on Donovan Mitchell, which caused Donovan Mitchell to run up on him, and they had a fight. Yes.
Bruh. Ouch.
Hey man, Dylan Brooks, Dylan Brooks, man, he kind of had that coming. That's the way I saw that, and I was like, man, he's been trying to fight everybody. He was trying to fight Shannon Sharp, and I think people have had enough. And then you're out here trying to kick people below the belt. You can't have that. We know I'm not condoning violence. I'm just saying if somebody does that, you know,
Fair
you
game.
got
Listen.
game. You know what I'm saying? You gotta do what you gotta do.
Look, Dexter's from Brooklyn. He know. All right. You just can't be kicking people in the crotch and expect to walk away.
Can't be doing that, man. That's disrespect. Can't be doing that.
Can't be doing that. Let him know, Dex. All right. He knows what it is, man. With Flatbush area. Shout out to Dexter, man. Man of the people.
There
man.
we go. East Flatbush all day. There we go.
All day, man. Flatbush all day. Gunshots, all right? All right. Hold on. Another super chat. $4.99 super chat from JT Riddick. Says, yeah, salute to KOT. Hashtag all 82. All right. Shout out to you. All right.
Wait, Jay Ellis.
What's up?
I got a bro pick.
Oh, you got a bro. Okay. Lee's first bro pick.
Oh, here we go.
My bro pick is whatever assistant coach it was that rat out Cam Reddish to Tibbs.
That's so good,
bro.
Snitches get stitches, bro.
Snitches get stitches, man.
Bruh.
Son, word to camera. Snitches get stitches, all right?
That was a good one, Lee.
That was a good one. It's good. That's a good first bro pick, Lee. That's a good first. All right, we're going to end the show now. All right, that is our show. Yo, Dexter, let them know where the people can find you. Plug everything.
You can find me New York Post Sports YouTube channel, SNY YouTube channel. I'm on there. I hold it down every weekend. Also one day during the week. You can catch me on there. Follow me on Twitter at DHenryTV. You also can see me hosting the NBA Exchange and the A Hard to Tell podcast. That's a sports and hip hop podcast I do. That is on the Backpack Broadcasting. That's my independent YouTube channel that I do. So you can catch me there. These guys will also be on those shows at some point. We're gonna make it happen. So it's good. So thank y'all for the support, man. And like I said before, y'all gotta have me back. It was really good kicking it with y'all after a Knick game. I'm always down to talk some Knicks hoops, man. And y'all are some good guys to talk with. And just keep doing what y'all doing, man. Keep doing what y'all doing and keep shining. That's it. Same thing to the fans out there. Keep doing what y'all doing and supporting. I see people giving the super chats and doing all that. It's beautiful. Support independent media. Support media done by people of color, especially during Black History Month. So appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Absolutely. If you know anybody else who we want to jump on, listen, man. We sharing is caring.
Oh, I got you. I got some people for you. I definitely got you.
All right, let them know. We can come on and collab. We do what we do. All right.
Collaborations.
Yep. Exactly. Rising tide lift all boats. All right, Lee. Let them know where they can find you, sir.
I got some shout outs. I want to say some names that I made sure Dexter Henry hears because they're a huge part of a KOT channel. Pitch for Timmy, Winston Ellis, JT Riddick, and my main man, Fritz Alexander.
Yeah, best mod in the game.
Sure you heard those names and know the work that's put into them, moderating the chat and all the hard work they do behind the scenes, especially my main man, Fritz.
Yo, shout out to Fritz. Fritz follows me. So shout out to Fritz, man.
Love Fritz, man. He's one of my favorite people on earth. I never met him in real life, but I love his energy and my talks with him. And also, I want to give a major shout out to you, Dexter, for having me on and giving me a conduit to speak my truth on the Knicks and to be able to represent, Jay Ellis and Ryan G. I always say, two Black intellectuals talking Knicks on these YouTube streets. I think it's important to be able to give them a shout out. It's Black History Month. I think you're a great, unbelievable Knicks knowledge and NBA expert doing your thing and really, opening the doors for everyone else to be able to have an opportunity to speak their piece as well. And it just really warms my heart a lot to know.
Thank you, man. And I think the people should know, we talked about this before, the three of us before we hopped on here. And I think people should know, I'm going to say this publicly, Lee reached out to me a couple months ago and sent me an email about just being on with me on SNY New York Post and just having more diverse voices on there. And that's something I've always tried to do. And when I came on tonight, he was sure to immediately big up Ryan and Jay Ellis right here for the work that they've done over the years and making sure that they get the recognition that they deserve for doing this work independently and building the fan base and building this platform. And when I do what I do, it's in my position to make sure we give back and uplift others in the media space. And so that's why I said it before, but I also saying it here now that Lee's mentioned it, so people can know how this came about. It's just we want all of these guys here to be part of what it's doing. So you will see these guys on with me. You will hear their voices. You will see them on various platforms shining because that's what is important. And we have to do this for all people of color, all marginalized groups, all genders, we have to do this. This is absolutely important work that we must do in this media space. So thank you, Lee, for doing that. But you deserve the credit because
Absolutely.
you reached out. I know you reached out to me, and a lot of times people think you can't reach out to somebody. You can't. All somebody can tell you is yes or no.
Yeah.
That's something I say all the time. But I think reaching out and what Lee wrote to me spoke to me in terms of something I'm passionate about, which is producing more diversity in media. So. It was. I'm blessed that you were able to write to me and we were able to do it. Now we're able to collab here and be here and talk some Knicks, and we had some fun. So it's funny how it all works. And now Jay Ellis is going to hop on, and Ryan's going to hop on with me, and we're going to all be in contact. And it's that's how it should be. And I think the fans deserve to know that because these are the things that need to happen behind the scenes. And I think that even people who just watch and support the media, especially if they are people of color. They definitely need to know that too and need to see that. So that's also another shout out to the fans. Continue to support these brothers because they're doing really good work, and what they do matters a ton. It really does.
Yeah, it makes me so happy to know that both Jay Ellis and Ryan are getting an opportunity because they've been doing this a way longer than I have, putting in so much sweat equity, their own money into the show. Like it just really means a lot to me. Like. Not to get too emotional, but I'm just really happy to know that both Ryan and Jay Ellis are an opportunity to speak their truth because they both deserve it.
Yeah, now they do. And Ryan and Jay Ellis, man, two Brooklyn guys. So you already know what time it is, guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm still down the block. I'm still down the block, Dexter.
Yeah, I know. Me and JL found out we don't live that far apart. We found that out.
Exactly. Yeah. But definitely shout out to Fritz. Fritz is like, people don't know, but Fritz is like a secret backbone to KOT. So shout out to Fritz, who does a lot of hard work behind the scenes. And then, I work hard, but Fritz works hard as well. And shout out to everybody on the team, Alex, who helps with graphics with me. Shout out to, everybody who helped Raw, Ryan G, Lee, everybody who's helped us kind of get to this point. And Kathy, original OGs, Kathy, Edson, Sean, everybody who rock with us, all the writers too, Mikey and Ken, whole squad.
Let's go,
Rob, everybody. All right. Thank you, Tor. That is our show. Wait, Ryan G, let them know where they can find you, sir.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Sir G is chilling.
Sir G is chilling.
SIR, G is CHILLI, and you can also find me at Sir G's Corner and on Twitter at Ryan G KOT.
Exactly. And let me know. Listen, you can find us in a few different places. All right. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. You can listen to all our podcasts on those platforms. You can get those snapbacks, blue and orange and black and white at nickoftimeshow.com. All you gotta do is go there, hit catalog, boom, all the merch pops up right there in your face. All right. And follow us on Twitter at the KOT Show, Instagram at the Knick of Time Show, and Facebook at the Knick of Time Show as well. And yep, that's it. That's all there is to it. Good show. Great talk, guys. And as always, you already know the deal.
Shout out the Worldwide West. Everywhere we go, we leave a worldwide mess.
It's a mess out here in these YouTube Knick streets. That's our show. We out of here.
Peace.
Peace.
York, New York, big city of dreams.